guys, welcome back to another episode of 4K Garage. That's right indeed. Got a couple of new microphones, so hopefully audio quality is going to be miles better than it was previously. So I hope you enjoy, but that's not why we're here today. What we're here for today is we're going to start taking apart the heads, get them ready to be cleaned up, getting all the valves cleaned up, get them relapped, get them all ready with the new valve springs, a whole host of fun to start doing some of the new parts. So of course that includes taking out the valves, all the valve springs, and then moving on to, as I say, to reassemble it all with lovely new parts. So I've still got the head here all wrapped up. Let's get started on the fun bits, get it on the bench, get it unwrapped, start taking these valve springs out. Not particularly a messy job, but I had to get some gloves on, it was just absolutely freezing, my fingers were killing me. So let's get this unwrapped. The old head gasket's on here, so let's take that off. Nice. So obviously, as you can see, there's quite a lot to get cleaned up here. We're going to start off by getting all the valves out. Luckily, there's only 2 per cylinder. You can see just how the LS makes all its power. Of course, with only 2 valves per cylinder, it's a bit prehistoric by today's engine standards. But with the exhaust valves and an absolutely gigantic intake valve, it just flows so much air. So let's start getting these out. Got the valve removal tool here. Just have this left over from a previous engine build, so you can do it with far more rudimentary tools, but I'm going to use this because it's what it's for. Right, so I've already went ahead and got a couple out, and just thought I'd bring you in here to get a close up of the next couple. So we're going to start off with the exhaust valve here, and then the intake valve. So we take our big old clamp, thread that around the head. Now we tighten the back side down on the valve itself, nice. And we simply start tightening it down on the top here. Now, hopefully you guys can see somewhat. There we go, a bit extra light. Hopefully you guys can see what that does, is that reveals the spring, the valve locks here. Which can be a little tricky to get out sometimes. Got one out there. They just hold the valve to make sure it's not going anywhere. There we go, second one. Done. Let's ease this off. Then we can take the valve spring off, put that away, and we can push the valve out past a little bit of crud. And that is one exhaust valve. Now you can see the exhaust valves are quite crusty, especially around this area where all the carbon buildup would be from all the combustion. But they're definitely serviceable. Going to lap these, we can find out if there's any pitting around the seat here where it all seals up, but we can lap them, make sure they seal better than ever. Pull you back a little bit and let's do the intake side. So once again, this goes on top of the spring, and we simply start compressing the spring. It's 1, 2, much easier that time, and then we just start undoing it. Here we go, and there's our big chunky intake valve. Crusty on one side. Like I said, we're going to clean all that up. Not as built up with carbon on this side, but this shiny edge here you see is where it seals to the head. So we're going to make sure those are super clean. Haven't got any pitting in them. We're going to smooth those out with the lapping process, some lapping compound. And the better these seal, the more compression, the more power, the more everything the engine will make. The final step of this process is to take off these seats and seals here. So let's just grab those out. They're just a pressed metal thing with a O-ring on the inside, just seats the valve, holds it in place and seals it up. And we're going to be replacing these are brand new ones, so these are going in the bin. Ticker and time lapse for the last 4. We'll have a look at them all laid out and start cleaning them up. Right, so hopefully you can somewhat see this. We now have a very empty and very messy head, because we're going to come in here and just degrease everything. I'm not really looking to remove this brown. I mean, it's just fuel and carbon stain. You see that I'm just rubbing it there and it's actually largely coming off. So a bit of degreaser, see this coming up nice. We're just going to take off a lot of this horrible like exterior crap, all this sealant that someone's used in the past. I'm going to replace all the seals with brand new ones. Just going to get all this horrible gunk out of here. Just give it a really good clean. Probably clean the inside of the intakes there, definitely, for sure. I mean, look at that, it's horrible. And then just, you know, cleaning off the surface. Giving the valve seats a good lap, just to make sure they seal up nicely. But now, once you start taking it all apart, it's all just very messy. And of course, it can all just be cleaned up with a bit of elbow grease and some time and effort. But it shouldn't be too bad. I mean, let's have a look at the valves here. So you see some of the ones we've just taken out. This is an intake valve, it's a bit crusty, not particularly nice. And here's one I've spent literally 5 minutes in the parts cleaner, just giving it a little scrub with a very soft brush. And you can see how all of that stuff, at least on the intake, just comes right off. Now, I'll probably clean these up a little bit more than this. As you can see, it's still a bit carbony, but in all honesty, it doesn't need it. As long as they're not covered in crusty carbon, yeah, any build up like this will just happen again in the first 100 miles of driving, so it really doesn't have to be spotless. Here's an exhaust valve. Again, much more crusty. You can feel how rough these are all the way up here, and these are probably going to need a bit more of a scrub, but if I can get these to state that one is, then I'm happy. And again, here's one I've just spent 5 minutes in the parts washer, and a bit of a scrub, bit of a brush, and they're still a bit rough, but you can see how that's 100 times better already. We've got all these to do. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cylinders, exhaust valves, intake valves, and all the locks there. Get all these cleaned up, get them put back in the head with nice new valve springs. The heads will be done. We can move on to the block. So let's start getting scrubbing on these. Right, so the next step in my process is going to be cleaning up these valves. Now, I've already done a few to see in comparison to the 2 intake valves here, how the one on the left is obviously the old one, and the one on the right is obviously the new one, just coated in a little fresh layer of oil, just to stop it from rusting. And I'm not trying to go crazy and get these all sparkling new, but just trying to get all this, any built up carbon, any crusty stuff off. And so to do that, I don't want to be too harsh with them. So I've got my little parts washer. And as you can see, just pumping degreaser around. It's just a water-based degreaser, so it's really doesn't do a huge amount, but better than the parts getting damaged at all. Brass brush, because brass is softer than steel, so it shouldn't cause any damage. A little nylon brush, and then just some Scotch-Brite pads. Now these will take material off metal if you scrub them dry. From doing these ones, I can tell that nothing's come off this. And I think that's just down to the amount of lubrication with the water just passing over it constantly. Just nothing really happens. Now the janky thing that I'm going to be doing is using a drill, which I probably wouldn't recommend. If you tape up the stem of the valves, pop them in a drill chuck, and then I've just got it set to a setting which is quite slow. And just makes it easier. So I'm going to crack through these, so let's start off. There you go. Nice. There we go. It's looking a lot better. You can see that hasn't really caused any major scratches on the surface. You've still got this nice surface finish on the valve. And of course the actual lips of them are going to be lapping against the heads anyway. But just from cleaning them up, they don't look too bad. They don't look too pitted or anything. So it probably won't take a huge amount of lapping. So that's pretty good. Do an exhaust valve and then do the rest of them. Here's an exhaust valve, still looking quite dirty, but they always will because, like I said, they've always just had much harder carbon and harder life in general. So there's a little bit of pissing on here, so I'm going to have to lap these a little bit harder, but that's not a big deal, kind of to be expected really. I'm pretty pleased with how these turn out. I mean, they're still very obvious level of carbon, but I'd rather leave them a little bit dirty and reusable rather than just totally destroy them by taking off any material. So there we go, just 6 more now, and quite thankful there's not more valves in this engine. Other than that, at least the parts washer makes a little nice water feature for the workshop. It's all about that feng shui here. Right, and here we go, all 16 valves are nice and somewhat clean. Now, I'm leaving them on the bench here for a little while, just while I do all the other bits of the head, and of course, I'm pretty sure the intake valves are steel, whereas the exhaust valves are some kind of alloy, they're not magnetic. So, I didn't want them to rust, of course, so I've just coated them all, top and bottom, in a layer of this fogging oil, and hopefully that should just stop them all from rusting. Allow us to now move on to doing the rocker arms. So let's do these, and after all those will come the heads, and then we can start putting it all back together. Right, so the next bit of all this head malarkey is the trunnion bearing upgrade in the rocker arms. Now you can see here, got the rocker arm, and that's got a bearing in it there. And what this has inside, and the reason we need to upgrade these, is inside here is these needle bearings, which, as you can see, are just tiny little needles, and the second I've already taken one out, you can see half of them have already exploded out. Now what can happen at high RPM or high power is these needle bearings can come out of the rocker arms, and all of these needles just disperse into your engine and ruin everything essentially. So we've got to replace these. Now the process is fairly savage, I would say. It is essentially what you need to do is press them out. Don't have a press, we've got a little vice bench here, and I have a, 15mm socket and a 13/16, whatever that is, in freedom units, and it's quite simple. The trickiest bit is just balancing it all, because you don't want to get any part of the rocker arm itself caught and then squished in the vice, but here you go, hopefully I've got that in such a way that you can see it. Now if I start to tighten this vice, hopefully, there we go, it's already giving. There we go. There we go. And as I pull this away, the middle is free, so are the bearings. So just got to do this for, again, all 14 other rocker arms. Give these a good clean in the parts washer and get the new bearings in them. So I'll see you guys when it's all done. Right, so with all the older needle bearings removed, you can kind of see the need for doing the trunnion upgrade. If we just fish out some of these, here's one that hasn't actually came apart here. You can just see how that's currently all nice and together. But if we pull the center out, you can see the second that comes apart, all the needle bearings are exposed. It doesn't take a lot to get those loose and have those rattling around in your engine, causing absolute havoc. Let's get one of the rocker arms cleaned up and fit it all together. I'll show you the process of that. Right, so it's the same deal as before really. Got our parts washer, got our rocker arms, just gonna clean them up as best we can really. And there we have it. One very nice clean rocker arm. Didn't want to damage the surfaces where it touches the push rod or the valve into the bearing surfaces too much. But you can see here, compared to an old one, how much nicer it looks. Now I just got to do this a whole load more times, and we'll move on to sticking the Trunion bearing upgrade in this one. Right, so here we are. It's time to put the Trunion kit in. So everything has to be covered in oils, but we got one of our nice polished up rocker arms here, and we got the Trunion, I guess it is. Pair of bearings. We, as I say, just get everything oily and pushes in, nice and easy. The center section goes in, and then this side slides over there. Now on a lot of Trunion bearing upgrades, that all has to be pressed in, but of course, as you can see, it's very easy on this one. However, the tricky bit is getting the circlips on, because they can be a right pain in the butt. What I'm going to do is, you might not be able to see this very well, but I'm just going to cover it all. There we go, that's one side on. See if I can get you guys a better view. All I'm doing, spreading this. Try not to do that. That happens quite a lot, so that's the reason for just kind of pressing it on with my fingers. This is really the hardest part of the entire process. Just getting these circlips on without losing one. I do actually give you a spare one just in case one does ping off into the stratosphere. There we have it. One nice finished rocker arm Trunion upgrade, and as you can see, these ones can spin all the way around, and that's it. Simple. And now when I put all the engine back together, I can rev it all the way up to red line with a bigger cam, stronger valve springs, and I'll never have to worry about all the bearings exploding in the engine and destroying it. Now I've got 15 more of these to do, so that's going to be fun, but I think that's going to be it for today. Good enough. Alright guys, that's it for this episode today. So I got quite a lot done there, got all the heads apart, got it all cleaned up, started getting the Trunion bearing upgrades for the rocker arms installed. Now I've got to go away and do the other 15 of those, so that's going to be fun. So I won't bore you with watching all of that. In the next episode, we're going to be moving on to actually cleaning the heads themselves, and then hopefully getting all the heads back together at some point, so that'll be exciting. But as always guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, do all that good YouTube stuff as I always say. Give it a like, leave a comment, subscribe maybe. If you do enjoy the channel and want to support it in any way, I've got a few little bits of merch available. There's a 4K garage design, as well as you can see, a 4K GT86 design. And all the links for that are in the description down below. So as I say guys, hope to see you on the next one. Till then, have a good one. Cheers. Bye for now.